I don't know about you, it's probably down to my age, but I do get a bit sick of hearing everybody all the time banging on about their mental health. Now, it's an important thing. I think it gets blown out of proportion to some degree, and I think some people just use it as an excuse for getting out of things or for not doing things. But there is an important message. When I look back at my career working for other people and comparing it to how I feel today, I think there is a big mental health element to work. And what I want to discuss here is how I feel that self-employment, being a solo entrepreneur, working for myself rather than working for a company or somebody else, has actually massively improved my mental health. In fact, I might go as far as to say it could even have saved my life. So let's take a look at the pros and cons of working versus working for yourself and the mental health benefits and the downsides. Let's look at paid employment. For a start off, when you're doing a job, you're not in control. Unless you are the absolute pinnacle, a CEO of a big company, or for the vast majority of us, working for somebody means taking orders, the constraints of a corporate culture, being micromanaged, told what to do. And I could give so many examples of times when you get told to do something, or I should say asked to do something, as people probably prefer to put it, and you think, oh, that is so dumb, that is so stupid. Now, when you work for yourself, you're the one making those decisions. Nobody's telling you what to do, so you don't have any of that. Another one, and I will do a separate video entirely about this, is job insecurity. With the cancel culture the way it is today, if you're of a certain age, if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s and you're working in paid employment and you've got younger people coming into the workplace, who knows when you're going to say the wrong thing or use an outdated term that you didn't even know is outdated. Could get you in the disciplinary, it could get you laid off, make you front of the queue for layoffs. Now, layoffs aren't a massive thing. I was looking at some figures on this earlier, and layoffs in the United States, you're probably looking at about 2.4 in 1,000 people get laid off every year. In the UK, it's about 3.5 people to every 1,000 people. So it's not huge numbers, but it matters to those who it matters to. It matters if you're the one who's been made redundant. And there are all sorts of situations in work where you're worried about your job security. There could be things going off with the company. In the UK, with our budget that's just gone, and in America with the election that's on today, as I'm recording this, there's massive insecurity because nobody knows what these things are going to mean for the economies and for our jobs. If you're working for yourself, you're more flexible, you can change, you cut yourself down in terms of your outgoings to manage to go along with what you're earning. So, although there's insecurity in that way, job insecurity when you work for somebody, the problem is it's not in your hands like so many other things. There's also a very limited flexibility when you're working for somebody else. Now, in the UK, we have a lot of talk at the moment about flexible working and about how people can hybrid working, all this sort of thing. But you're still set to rigid schedules, and it has an impact on your personal life. You can't do this because of that, or I can't do that tonight because I need to be early tomorrow to go and do that. Those types of things put big restrictions on your life. Now, they're not the kind of things in themselves probably that are going to make or break your mental health, but it all builds up. The biggest problem I see with working for somebody else is workplace stress. I'll tell you, so this is how bad it got for me. In one of the car companies I worked for, a big part of my responsibility was the finance. Now, I wanted to get out of that. I don't like selling finance, but there's always a job there doing it. And it always needed to be done. It was a lucrative area for any dealership. But I had a split role. It was a small dealership, prestige brand, and my role was split into being the sales manager responsible for the actual selling of new and used vehicles, but also for the finance across the board. I could write a book, and I could write a book with some very, very exposing elements in it about the finance side of the car industry. But what I want to say here is I had a massive amount of pressure placed on me on the numbers, the PPUs, the profit per unit on a vehicle across the board for each month. So I not only had the responsibility of the sales, getting the right numbers and getting the right profit in the vehicles, in the metal as we called it, but also from another section of the business above me, a completely separate set of people were putting pressures on me for the finance figures. Now, the finance, you would think that the finance and the profits of the cars goes hand in hand. Not necessarily. You could sell a car with a massive profit in it, would do really well for the business, but it's not on finance, it destroys your finance figures. And the pressure I used to get on that side was absolutely immense. And this is an absolutely true story. I was driving home one day, it was about a 30-mile drive home, and I'd been getting so much stress, so much built up over time in this dealership from the powers that be about the finance figures and about constantly getting them and getting more penetration and getting higher PPUs. I was driving along, it was the national speed limit road, so it was a 70-mile-an-hour road, and I was going along and I was, shall we say, I might have been exceeding this a little bit, and it was in the country, and I was so stressed I was looking at the trees as passing by and I was going past at this speed. And for a short moment, I genuinely thought about what would happen if I was put my foot down, went even faster, and just drove this thing into a tree. That'd be it. All the stress would be over. I'd be done. I wouldn't have anything more to do with it. Now, it was only a brief, fleeting moment. It didn't last for long, and it wasn't something that had been weighing me down. A thought that had been with me for a long time before. But just for that moment, that shows you how much workplace stress can get to you. There are all sorts of, many, I'm sure tons of you could give me examples in the comments about the kind of stress you've found in the workplace. I had an area manager in a job once who was basically on a campaign to get rid of me from the day he started. I even had the temporary area manager who from before him, who actually rang me up and says, this guy's got the job, he's going to be area manager. I said, what should I do? He says, I think you'll start looking for another job. In the end, that's what I had to do. And the other thing sometimes is monotony. When you're working for somebody else, I've had some jobs I really enjoyed. I'm sure many of you have. But I've always found that I enjoy them for a while, and eventually you get used to it. The routine becomes monotonous, doing the same thing day in, day out. And when you're tied into that paycheck, that salary at the end of the month, you just have to put up with the monotony. It's not like that when you work for yourself. So let's see about the effects on your mental health of working for yourself. For a start off, autonomy. You've got the freedom to make the decisions. You make the mistakes. You can't blame anybody else. You do it, or you make all the decisions. Okay, circumstances happen, life happens. It does to all of us. But you have the autonomy to adapt and to change things and to make things better, or to look at things from your own perspective. You put yourself and your family first. And that's a big thing you can't always do when you're stuck in paid employment. Flexibility of your schedule. You can have flexible working, you might have hybrid working, but it's never going to be as flexible as it can be when you're working for yourself. Today, for this month, I think I've got currently about 45 articles to write. I was going to do, my intention last night was I was going to sit down and start doing the writing. But this came up in my mind this morning while I was in the shower, and I thought, no, I want to do this video. So I do this video, I'll do the writing tomorrow. Doesn't matter, it's only a day difference. I've got till the end of the month to get them in, so ultimate flexibility. I mentioned in other videos earlier, pursuing your passions, whether it's walking your dog, whether it's seeing your family, whether it's fossil hunting, whether it's, in my case, scuba diving. You're a cyclist, you like to make model aircraft, you like to go swimming. You have the time to pursue your passions in a way you never would do. You build your business or you work your schedule around your passions. If you want to, you don't have to. I know a few people actually who've got, as far as I can see, no hobbies whatsoever other than sitting out vegging in front of the telly, and that's about it. But yeah, do that if you want, if that's your thing. Wouldn't recommend it, but there you go. There's also a confidence building thing. I mean, as you can probably tell from the way I come across on the camera here, I'm not short of a bit of confidence, never have been. I've been in rock bands, I've played in front of live television, big stadiums, that sort of thing. But the confidence you get, you don't realise it over time with your own business. When you realise you are the one that's generating that income, you're the one that's bringing the money in, you've created that business, that entity yourself, it gives you a tremendous boost and it makes you feel a lot better about yourself. You also get, you build different relationships. in your own business than you would do. Now, obviously at work, people meet their partners at work and lifelong friends. I know and understand that. But you're also forced into an environment with people where to make life anything like worth living, you have to get along, or it helps to get along. It can spill over sometimes you just can't with some people. I have experience of that. But when you're working for yourself, it's all up to you, the people you interact with. And this even comes down to the customers, and I really appreciate this. I've worked, even in self-employment in the early days, there was one particular client I had in Florida who was a real you-know-what. I mean, absolutely as bad as any of the people I've worked for in paid employment. And in the end, I just told him to shove it. Life was too short. Don't want to work for him. I'll find something else. He was also a bit of a liar. The money started really well, but then I got different work as time went on. He started giving me more of the crappy, cheap little things. Awful. But his attitude stung. So I ditched him. The same with any customers. If you're working as a gardener or you're working as an electrician, you go into people's houses. You'll meet some lovely people, you'll have some lovely customers. You'll even do a bit extra for those customers. But you'll also have some that you don't want to ever see or have anything to do with ever again. And you can either just offer the next time they come to you, give them a price so outrageous that they won't accept it. Or if they do, you're going to get paid stupid money for doing a simple job. Or you just outright tell them you're too busy, or just tell them, no, go to hell, I don't want to work for you anymore. So that's a huge thing for me that makes it, in retail, I've had some horrible, horrible customers. You only really remember the horrible ones. And like, now you don't have to put up with any of that. So there's a real sense of achievement and purpose running your own business. You have the option to make it as big as you want to. You can grow it. You can eventually go down the route of employees and premises. If that's your thing, it's not for me. I like the solo element of it. But you can't underestimate the effect it has on your mental well-being. I'd never really thought about it until I started making these videos. I spoke to my wife about the incidents on the road that time, and there was one other one earlier on with my t-shirt business when that was struggling, when I had some pretty dark thoughts. And now there's so much emphasis on mental health in the news, on the television, you start to think about it a bit more, and that's why I think, yeah, doing this the way I live now has probably made me mentally a much better, much more stable person. The one thing I'll admit, I do, in my personal circumstances, it can feel a bit lonely sometimes when you're involved in a business where maybe your other half doesn't really understand it to the extent you do, and you get problems, there are things eating up inside you. Like, it's just life. Now, whether that's mental health or that's just life, I'll leave that up to you to decide. But I can't think there's any way I would be in as good a place today as I am if I'd continued working for any of the companies I worked for before. And I think the one statistic that proves that beyond everything else is that I've now been 100% self-employed since 2014. So it's just over 10 years now. I haven't been in any job in my life for anything close to that. I've always chopped and changed, moved, adapted, lost jobs, gained jobs. I think 5 years is possibly my record prior to this. So if I stick doing this for 10 years and I don't foresee anything changing in terms of being self-employed, I probably couldn't work for anybody else anymore now. So if you have any problems with your mental health, if you think things are getting you down to such an extent that you don't want to go on, or you just can't comprehend carrying on doing what you're doing, think about what I promote in these videos. Think about doing it yourself. You don't have to jump in with both feet today and say, that's it, I'm quitting, I'm going to do my own thing. No, start doing something, making plans, put your toe in the water, give it a little go from there. But have the idea in your mind that that's your end goal, to go and be like me, completely self-reliant, completely self-employed. It's not for everybody. No, we're all different. But I can honestly say from my experience and the way I feel today that my life, it's not spectacular. I'm not one of these ones on Instagram showing you from Dubai and from Paris and all these different wonderful things on the boats and the Ferraris and that. I've got a Peugeot. It's not a Ferrari, it's a Peugeot. But it's great. I appreciate it because I generate the money for that car and I have no problems paying for it, and it's great. So I have what I call a really, really good life. And I'll put that down to me being a solo entrepreneur. And you can be too. So anyway, if you find this content interesting and you like it, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to ask anything, you want to make any comments, please jump in the comments below. I'm always pleased to hear from you.